The Gilded Age is back for its third season. Julian Fellowes' glittering HBO period drama continues to chronicle the power struggles between old money and nouveau riche in 1880s New York, this time with fractured marriages, clashing elites, and the slow unraveling of the city's social code. After a second season that saw the Russells win the Opera War and the Brooke Van Ryn household undergo a financial upheaval, Season 3 picks up with both families adjusting to new dynamics and new stakes. The scintillating soap opera is set in New York City and Newport, Rhode Island during the late 19th century. It was a time when the rich were richer than ever before and the poor all the poorer. HBO's The Gilded Age delves into how the new money represented by the robber barons and their families appended to the conservative culture of old New York, dominated by the descendants of the city's early settlers. Years after their season 1 meet cute series sweethearts Marion Brooke and Larry Russell get to embark on their fairy tale romance, covert kisses and all. Beloved footman Jack gets his long-awaited shot to sell his alarm clock. The brilliant Peggy Scott gets to be swept off her feet by a handsome and blessedly single doctor. Most importantly, though, The Gilded Age finally gives Gladys Russell a full Consuelo Vanderbilt storyline, with some stunning twists. The season begins with horses and a carriage in Morenci, Arizona, where George Russell expects to strike a fresh agreement to increase his wealth. George has already proven to be a clever businessman, but this venture carries a significant risk. He needs land that is now mine in order to carry out his ambitious plan to build a cross-country railroad. He plans to buy the acreage he needs with his colleague Clay, but the miners are hesitant to sell. They want a chunk because they believe George will make their land profitable. The miners want to get in on the deal, so they meet him together rather than letting him take them one by one. This isn't the simple solution George was hoping for. Clay is left to complete the discussions under penalty of losing his job when George quickly returns to New York after receiving an urgent communication regarding a run on the Metropolitan National Bank. The Van Ryns are surviving off the unexpected wealth Ada got from her late husband Luke Fort after Oscar lost the family money in the previous season. However, since Ada pays the servants' wages but Agnes owns the property, it begs the question of which sister is in charge. Sadly, the servants are caught in the middle, receiving contradictory directives and not knowing who is in charge. Bannister makes multiple attempts to find out who is currently in control of the mansion, but he is unsuccessful. Ada does a good job adjusting to her new role and opposing Agnes' beliefs, particularly her new cause of temperance. Even though Agnes publicly criticizes Ada's involvement in the campaign, Ada continues to hold a meeting for the activist organization that wants to outlaw alcohol. Oscar, meantime, is having a hard time adjusting to his new surroundings after losing his job at the bank and moving home with his mother. Ada says she will see to Oscar's needs when he begs for an allowance, but he will have to work if he wants more. Ada invites Larry Russell to join them for dinner in the hopes of inspiring Oscar, but she is unaware that Larry and Marion are covertly courting. The dinner takes an unexpected turn when Agnes criticizes Oscar for not having a job and laments that Marion has accepted a new job at the female normal and high school. However, Agnes dismisses Marion's criticism of the double standard. Oscar doesn't seem hopeful now that he has little to offer, but Marion wonders if he will try to marry for money again, and after asking him about the meal that night and learning that Ada's plan didn't work out. The servants, particularly Jack, the footman who still works with Larry to sell his clock, have their own lives in addition to being caught between Agnes and Ada's orders. To Jack's dismay, Larry informs him that he has scheduled multiple appointments but plans to attend them alone. Larry doesn't get the technical aspects of Jack's idea, so Jack makes drawings for him to use in the meetings. The most dramatic part of Jack's narrative, though, is when he meets Larry and Larry insists on being served even if the Russell servants don't want to. Although Jack defends his decisions, Adelheid accuses him of going above and beyond his rank due to the altercation as he is leaving. Peggy's plot, meanwhile, demonstrates bigotry in action once more. After spending a night at her parents' place, Peggy gets a letter from the Christian Recorder's editor offering to publish a passage from her book. Peggy becomes ill after racing back to the Van Ryns' house in the unusually late snowfall. Agnes insists on calling a doctor as Peggy's condition worsens, but to her dismay, the family physician declines to treat her. The Van Ryns send an urgent message to Peggy's parents since Agnes is unable to coerce him into doing so. Through Aurora Fane's story, The Gilded Age draws attention to yet another social injustice of the era when her husband, Charles, declares his intention to file for divorce in order to wed his mistress, Elsa Lipton. Even though Aurora would have to file for divorce if she were accused of infidelity, she declines since she knows it will ruin her life and cause her to be shunned by her peers. When Aurora describes her circumstances, Agnes affirms this by stating that she would like to be by herself and would not invite Aurora to gatherings following a divorce. Aurora is urged by Ada and Agnes to keep the marriage together, but Charles is so adamant that it looks unattainable. The plot of the Russells revolves around marriage, with Gladys and Larry both skulking behind Bertha's back. When Larry first meets Marion, he is prepared to propose, but Marion is more hesitant because of her prior transgressions. In the meantime, Bertha and Gladys have different ideas about the future. Larry helps Gladys meet Billy Carlton in secret, and Gladys has fallen in love with him. Bertha is planning to end Gladys' engagement to Hector, Duke of Buckingham, but Gladys thinks he is just waiting for George to come home so Billy can speak with him. Gladys doesn't hide her dislike of Hector when Bertha says he's coming back, but she uses Bertha's ruses to gain permission to accompany Larry to the opera, where she intends to see Billy. Gladys is sure that her father will stand up for her, but Billy worries about Hector's return at the opera. After discovering that Bertha has been giving information to the media, Larry becomes suspicious of her, which fuels the notion that Gladys and Hector are engaged. Gladys still believes George will help her even if Larry asks her in private if she has thought about eloping. But when Mrs. Carlton tells Bertha of Gladys' plans, Bertha learns of them, thinking the engagement is all but finalized. Bertha is furious and confronts Larry for assisting Gladys, but Larry supports Gladys' happiness. Bertha is unconvinced, believing she knows what is best for her daughter. After that, Gladys approaches Bertha and argues for her right to select her own husband, but Bertha has goals for Gladys that Gladys does not share. Gladys flees from home in the middle of the night after storming out of Bertha's chamber.